Today's rather formal-looking black tie UNIXy shenanigans are brought to you by Squarespace. But more on that in a bit. Have you ever been really mad at your employer? I mean, so mad that you rage quit, start a competing tech company, poach a bunch of their top engineers, and then sell that tech company back to your original company and take it over as CEO. Well, that's exactly what Steve Jobs did at Apple, pretty much. So today, let's take a look at this really interesting machine that I've been trying to get a hold of for years, soup it up a bit, and marvel at how an obscure machine was pretty much the genesis of everything we do with computers today. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy tales of corporate intrigue and a sleek black UNIXy vision of the future that could only have come from the 1990s, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. So, I have here a NeXTStation Color, complete with its matching 17-inch megapixel color display. And today, we're going to soup it up a little bit and sort out a few of its weird issues, and then play around with it and see what it was like to use the finest Unix machine that 1990 had to offer. Let's start with an abbreviated history. This thing is an obscure UNIXy workstation from 1990, but it had a surprisingly outsized impact on the overall history of computing. The short version is that in 1985, Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he co-founded, Apple Computer. And instead of slinking off into the sunset with millions of dollars in Apple shares, he founded a new computer company, NeXT. In 1998, they released their first computer, the iconic Cube.
These things are stupid.
A super powerful, spare no expense workstation with a brand new Unix-based operating system called NeXT. It retailed for the equivalent of $15,000 in today's money, and used the same processor as a lot of Macs at the time, the 68030. It targeted big business and universities doing big sciencey stuff, and it didn't sell very well. But it left an incredible mark on computing in the very short time it was actually on the market. Tim Berners-Lee used a NeXT machine as the first server on what would become the web. id Software developed Doom on a NeXT computer. And even the modern Mac OS has quite a bit of NeXT DNA in it, which I actually did a video on way back when. I'll link that right here. This new company, though, eventually felt the sting of trying to push $15,000 computers on universities and trying to make a profit with that somehow. So they released less expensive machines like this Color NeXTStation I have here. Although even this didn't last very long, and they eventually gave up on hardware altogether and just focused on selling the NeXT operating system, which was quite innovative actually. And then they famously sold the company back to Apple, setting the stage for Steve Jobs to retake the CEO reins and start chucking iPods at us.
Here.
Well, today we're gonna pause in that brief moment of time when NeXT was still a computer company. And we're going to show some love to this pretty interesting machine right here, because it does have a few issues, like an aging spinning hard drive that sounds like it's about to give up the ghost at any moment. And this monitor only actually works when you hold the power button in because the latching mechanism is broken. Dang it. Dang it. And once we address those things, we'll get a fresh install of NeXT going on here and see just what all this Unix hubbub is all about. Right after this word about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Create a fast, beautiful, and rich web experience for your business or brand using Squarespace's powerful all-in-one platform. It's really easy to get started. Like, say I wanted to build a website all about our grand, glorious 68K Unix future. I could build it in minutes with Squarespace, and I could do it without writing a single line of code. There's a ton of beautiful templates that I could choose to start from, and from there, it's simple to build a great looking site that's also fast, responsive, and works great on mobile devices. With Squarespace's extensive built-in toolset, I can also optimize for SEO, manage a mailing list, check my analytics, and much more, all geared towards managing your entire web presence. So check out squarespace.com/actionretro today for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code ActionRetro to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So what we're going to do today is swap in a SCSI to SD, which is a clever little device that we've used quite a bit on this channel, which lets a SCSI machine see an SD card as if it were a hard drive. And there are a lot of complicated configurable parameters that you can switch about on these things. Fortunately, one of my all-time favorite YouTubers, Rees, has created a guide specifically on what fiddly settings you need to set on this thing. And I think I want to swap out this behemoth of a CRT for a nice LCD. I'd love to fix this thing, but honestly, this thing weighs a ton and it's made of extremely fragile plastic that's already cracking. So I'm terrified to take it apart. That's an endeavor for future Sean. But swapping in an LCD isn't as simple as you might think. First, it has to support sync on green, which is kind of uncommon. Even more uncommon is the fixed resolution that the NeXTStation runs at. It's 1120 by 832, and that's all you get. Good luck finding a monitor that has any idea what to do with that. I thought I found the perfect one. Oh my god, it's so heavy. So close, yet so far. It syncs on green, but it can't make this goofball resolution work. Fortunately, after a ton of very impressive trial and error... Yep. Oh yeah, now that's nice. This is the only LCD that I've found that doesn't skew the picture too thin or cut off the top and the bottom. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect because there still is a bit of a border around the edges, but a CRT has a border like this as well, so it kind of looks fine. The only imperfection here, there's a bit of a scratch on the screen, but it's not too distracting. It's also very bright and crisp, although not perfectly crisp, but much sharper than that old, tired CRT. Alright, so we are going to be swapping out that noisy hard drive for a SCSI to SD, but SCSI to SD isn't the only option here. In fact, you could use something like a blue SCSI just as well, or an azul SCSI, and in fact, by happy coincidence, Macintosh Librarian is doing this exact same thing right now with an internal and external blue SCSI on NeXT machines, so yeah. I'll definitely link her videos down below once they're posted, but I want to follow Rees's guide to the T, and I just so happen to have this nice SCSI to SD with a bracket already printed up, which I think will fit quite nicely in here. Rees kindly made a downloadable XML file with the settings that we can just import directly into the SCSI to SD, which will set up all of the goofy settings that we need to work smoothly, and set up a 2 GB partition, run SCSI to SD util. Alright, the SCSI to SD is detected, and yeah, we can open the file and save it to the device. Alright, that was successful. Now we just need to get a disk image onto the SD card. So what Rees recommends is a pre-configured NeXTStep 3.3 install image, which you can download from WinWorld here. And this will give you a 2 GB installation, which is right after install finished. So we still get to go through all of the fun setup stuff as if we installed from CD. So I've downloaded the image. We'll plug in our SD card, and using Win32 Disk Imager, we'll install our 2 GB partition written directly to the card. All right, so I have never taken one of these apart before, and like a true professional, I did not look it up ahead of time. So we're just gonna dig in, and I'm fully expecting this to be annoying to take apart or complicated. I mean, it's not like it's a super obscure 90s Unix machine or anything. But I see one screw here on the back. And that's the only screw I see. Oh. All right. It's only one screw. Not what I was expecting from a Steve Jobs enterprise. And look at this. We have fully populated RAM, although I'm not sure exactly how much RAM this is. And I don't want to take it out because it's on plastic clips. I did read that NeXT moved to these cheaper clips for cost reduction, and they are very fragile these days. And here is our hard drive, which looks to be quite the chogster. And the world's shortest cables. There's a Molex connector right on the motherboard. And look at this teeny tiny SCSI cable. It's like 2 inches long. That's amazing. Oh, there's a battery in here. I probably should have looked for this sooner. Thankfully, it's not leaking. And I definitely don't have any 2/3 A batteries laying around. Well, look at that. According to our good friend Mr. Multimeter here, this battery seems good. It's it's outputting 3 volts. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it in there for now, although I have no idea how old it is. All right. To get this hard drive out, I see one screw here. And that's the only screw I see. Oh. It really is just one screw and it levers on out. Amazing. And wow, just look at this chunk-tastic hard drive. This thing is enormous. So let's see, just 4 screws here, I assume. And we have our SCSI to SD, which I have this kind of poorly printed bracket, which will suit our purposes just fine because it's not like you can see it. There we go. Looks pretty good. And will our tiny cables fit? Let's see. It's a bit of a stretch, but it'll do. And we don't need this anymore because the SCSI to SD gets its power from SCSI termination. So this should be powered from the single cable alone. All right, I would like to do something about this kind of noisy fan, even though it's not really that dusty. But I wonder if I can find something like a Noctua, or better yet, RGB. Okay, well, it's not RGB, but this should be very quiet, hence the name Be Quiet. And yeah, this is a 12-volt fan. I'm pretty sure this is 12 volts. It sure looks like it. And our lovely Be Quiet fan in the same orientation here, which is actually pushing air down and through these vents here. Nice. Okay, let's do a dry run with the cover off and the SD card removed, just to make sure everything's getting power correctly, the fan doesn't melt, and the lights blink on the SCSI to SD. And yeah, here we go. Fan spinning, noise from the speaker. All right, testing system. No lights on the SCSI to SD though. Huh. Loading from disk. Ah, lights on the SCSI to SD. It is alive. Let's put it back together and get the full Next Step Experience. Oh yeah, it's booting. And I am really excited for this because I have never seen a fresh Next Step install, and I have no idea what the setup process is like, or how many screens there are, what kinds of questions it's going to ask. So we have our welcome screen in tons of different languages. Welcome, bienvenue, willkommen. All right, so language is English. Keyboard layout, USA. Selected English, yes. Okay. Oh, all right. We are directly into the desktop. There is only one setup screen. Neat. This is like the opposite of a Macintosh. Easy to disassemble, easy to set up the operating system. Cool. Okay, so NeXT computers were quite famous for having RJ45 Ethernet jacks when not a lot of computers actually did. In fact, this might have been one of the first. Well, the NeXT Cube at least. I think it might be fun to try to get the internet working on this thing, because this thing was built for networking, and yeah, let's try. All right, so I did actually look this up beforehand so I knew how to do it, because otherwise I'd be fumbling around forever. I think it's in NeXT Admin, and then Host Manager. There we go. Yeah, okay. So I can configure stuff here in the local tab. And set. And I have to reboot. Go right ahead. Okay, so after a little more reading, I think I figured it out. We have our configuration here in local configuration, set to use local domain only, with my very clever host name of NeXT Fellow. And yeah, if we pop into a terminal here, I can ping the router and I get a response, and I can ping the wider internet. So 1.1.1.1, that is the Cloudflare DNS server. And that pings just fine. So this thing is on the internet. Now, the other thing we need to do is create a resolve.conf file. So vi, etc. resolve.conf. Nope, did that wrong. Vi, etc. resolve with no e .conf. And then I just need to do name server 1.1.1.1. Right quit. All right, so we should have DNS after we restart. So let's try 1.1.1.1, a ping. Yep, we are still connected. And now, ping google.com. Hey, we have domain names. All right, so what I'd like to do now is get a web browser going on this thing. And through the magic of FTP, we have OmniWeb 2.7 Beta, which I believe is the most recent web browser that you can run on NeXTStep 3.3 on original NeXT hardware. Don't actually know when this was released. All right, well, the license number is from August 24th, 1995. Huh, all right. Oh, you know what I never did? I never looked at the memory in this computer. Let's see. Info panel. Aha, we're maxed out. 32 megs of RAM, 68040 processor, system 3.3 with our 1.87 gigabyte hard drive. All right, so browsing the web with 32 megs of RAM. Okay, protocol, HTTP, frogfind.com. Hey! Look, there it is. We're on the web. Browsing the web on our NeXT computer. Ah, amazing. OmniWeb NeXTStep Release date. All right, let's see. Wikipedia page for OmniWeb through FrogFind. Does this have a date or a release list? No. Let's try something a little more fun. What kind of next demo would this be if we didn't try to run Doom in its original environment? And definitely don't expect this to run very well. That's not too bad. One of the issues, of course, is that there is no actual sound from this game in NeXT, even though NeXT was the development environment. All right, hurt me plenty. Let's see. Now we have arrow key controls. Shift for run. Seems to work. Yeah. Get some armor. This frame rate is, it's something. All right, let me just kill something real quick, and then I'll be happy. All right, space. No, space is fire. All right. How do I open the door? I have an idea. Let's do new game, Knee Deep in the Dead on Nightmare. And now I'll have something I can kill. Oh my god, the frames. Yes, murder. And I killed one thing. Good enough. Oh man, I am so excited to finally have a NeXT machine. I've wanted one of these forever, and they're pretty obscure, not that easy to find. So, very grateful to the viewer of this channel that I purchased this thing from. It is awesome. And can you believe that everything in this video actually went to plan? When was the last time that happened? But that'll do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more UNIXy shenanigans like this, please subscribe down below. And make sure you stick around after the Patreon credits. I have a little surprise. And a special thanks to Alex Hoffman, Camilo Noceda, Chris Allegretta, Chris Biggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Control-Alt-Rees, Daniel Hubbard, Greg from Rutke Mods, Justin Reed, Megahertz Models, Michael Mulhern, Paul Spencer, Ryan, Scott Thompson, Sutek, Tom Woodfin, and Unknown Soldier 41, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Here's a full minute and a half of Steve from Mac84 struggling with his NeXT cube.
Alright, let's get stupid again. Oh! That almost hit me in the face for real that time. Just realized this says NeXT04 on the back of it. Alright, let's try that again. If you don't like that take, you could splice over the audio from this one to the other one. The silent one. I'm wearing Ron's shirt for bad luck. Actually hurt my finger that time. These things are stupid. It's a real table. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Oh, none of this is going to get used. Poor Sean has to listen to me babble and talk to myself. No, that was unconvincing. This thing's heavier than a molar Mac. Well, I hope that's useful, because that's all I got in me.